Gracias.
Thank you. I noted that you gave us quite a bit of information of what you would consider to be successes in prosecution and investigations, which I think is very helpful. But for me, it would be important for me to get a sense of how that compares with the failures. So, for example, uh, information, statistics, we like to ask for statistics in this commission. What is the percentage in terms of, the successes to the failures? So how many, if you had 200 that, yes, you said you prosecuted, did 600 start a claim and failed? So that kind of information. So we get a real sense of accountability in terms of the investigative and judicial process. And I was also unclear in my mind, two matters that you raised, which seem to me that might be different to ordinary prosecutions of ordinary criminal nature. So you talked about a prosecutable offense. So to me, what is not a prosecutable offense in relation to torture? And also, what is not admissible evidence, because you also indicated that some of them failed because of this admissible evidence point. So why I ask, because I would like to know what is the threshold. Are the thresholds different when in terms of torture cases as opposed to ordinary criminal cases? So are the thresholds higher for torture, which is where I think we get into the realm when the presenters were talking about secrets, national security concerns. So I think we need to get a real sense of what those limits are, what are the parameters in terms of prosecution as well as its statistics. And I also felt that a lot of what the U.S. is doing now, although they've acknowledged, yes, there was torture, we're so sorry, we're going to move forward, but then a lot of the emphasis, at least in the report, seemed to me to be on individual responsibility, like the managers. We talked about the management and the leadership, which is important, but it seems to me that apart from that, the structural defects in the system, so the legal limits, etc., not just that is this bad manager or bad leader that caused this torture. So that sort of sense for me was important. I think, too, when you talked about the court martials, that is laudable that we had court martials. But again, for me, it seemed to me that having court martials would have been important, but it did not necessarily mean, even if you found a particular officer or leader, manager guilty in terms of the court martial, and I actually know very little about court martials. I suspect Commissioner Gonzalez knows more about things like that. But my sense is that even when you had one and somebody was found to be guilty, it did not give rise to a remedy for the victim. So that's a different process to starting. You'd have to have some sort of complementary process so that the victim, the subject of the court martial, would have a remedy. So it would be necessary, in my view, but not sufficient from what we're talking about in terms of where we need to go with justice. And finally, to sort of reiterate what I think Commissioner Ortiz is saying about moving forward, and I think Commissioner Gonzalez was saying that too, that yes, we've come to a place where the United States has acknowledged it and says, and with good intentions, they are saying we don't want to ever have torture again. Rapporteur Juan Mendez said so far they have no evidence there's anything else, but nevertheless, we are not convinced that these structural deficiencies don't remain in the system, which could make it possible in the future. And for me, the best way to prevent torture moving forward is to actively and strongly prosecute and provide remedies. To me, that is what would create a very strong legacy. That would be the best argument in moving forward. So those would be my questions. You want to have a question? Assistant Executive Secretary Elizabeth Ami Michel, who leads our legal team, also has a question.